Yo, welcome back to Black Fathers. You are in the conversation. We are having a conversation about today fatherhood, a state of mind. I'm excited about this. We are talking about our mentality. We're going to be talking about how we think and how other people view us when we think, and the pressure, the stress, the anxiety, and all the stuff that we carry on our shoulders as Black men, as Black fathers. One of the first things I want to do is introduce our first guest, which is going to be Mr. Rodney Carr. He's the founding director of iCar Foundation. What's
Hey,
up, brother? How are you, man?
what's going on? Small correction is I care.
I care. My bad.
Yeah,
That's a huge correction, man.
yeah. It's okay because it happens every day. So,
Every day, my bad. Well, look, and here I'm falling into it. But let me
yeah,
finish introducing you here, because and you graduated in 1990 from Baltimore City College High School, a public magnet high school nicknamed the Castle on the Hill. Is that Drew? Is that near Drew Hill or something like that? Is that why it's on the hill,
no,
or is just
just that you can see it from almost anywhere. It's literally on a hill. It's literally a castle on a hill.
on the hill in East
Yes,
Baltimore?
yes, yes, sir.
Ah, my man, my man. In 2014, you founded iCare. You get that
Correct.
right. The iCare Foundation with the goal
Yes,
of providing mentoring in the Baltimore metro area. After witnessing a great need, iCare Foundation expanded, and in 2017, a collaborative healing was launched to provide behavioral health and transitional housing components that included services to families. I want to say thank you and welcome to the show, brother.
thank you.
My next guest, he is not a stranger to the show, brother Tsanonda Edwards. How are you, man?
All is well, all is well. Good to see you,
Good,
brother Barry. Oh yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
good to see you, man. I think last time that wasn't as far out. Was you letting it grow, right?
Yeah, man. Hey, look, haven't been to the barbershop since COVID hit. I'm gonna keep it going for a little while
Hey,
longer.
like keep going, man. Get that top bun going, man. Get that top one. Go ahead and get the little ponytail thing up the top, man. Just make that thing work, man. Like I was out there for a minute, and it was like my wife was like, "All right, that's enough.
Reel
That's
it
enough."
in.
Right. Exactly, exactly. So let me get a quick intros here. Born and raised in Baltimore, you're the author of Extraordinary Mr. Nobody, a beginner's guide to self healing, which uses your life as a backdrop to guide readers through high school, college, and life with particular focus on relationships, decision making, and battling the stigma of mental health. We're going to get into that today because there's a lot of stigmas out there. So thank you for again joining us on the show, bro.
Yes, sir. Pleasure's mine.
My next guest is Mr. Orin Howard. Currently, he has a private practice in Prince George's County, Maryland. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
Hey, pleasure to be on with you, brothers.
Man, look, man, you looking real studious with all them books behind you, man. I was like, look, he had to found the perfect spot to set up. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
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 this is it.
yeah.
That's it. Got the lighting, got the books. That's what. Let me introduce you here. Over 25 years of experience in direct and in the community. And at macro levels, he's taught at the University of Maryland School of Social Work for over 13 years. He's a parent, the co-host of a podcast called The Unicorn's Couch. You're going to tell me a little bit about that. The father of an 18-year-old son named Khaled, and Khaled is a freshman in college. What's up, man?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, thank you again. I have a lot of experts today, man. So we're gonna be digging deep. And let me see. Do we have him yet? Do we have Mr. Richard Rowe yet? Let me see. Not yet, but as soon as he comes on, we can hit him with a quick intro. So, gentlemen, thank you again, and we may have a surprise guest. Uh, it is confirmed. So, our executive director, the founder of the Fathers Foundation, Mr. Matt Pressberry, come on in here, brother, man. You got to show that face, man.
Peace,
You
peace.
found.
What's good, man?
Hey, listen. Thank you again for participating because you never do. So
Dang, Brian, you had to put it like that.
hey, look, that was shade, man. That was shade. Let you know it was coming too.
It's all good, brother. I just wish I had more light in here.
That's
Looking
all good. We
pretty.
can see you. We can see you. There
All
you
right.
go. There you go. I'm glad to see you still repping Maryland down there in
Oh yeah,
Georgia.
hometown for sure. No matter where I go, no matter how long I stay, it's Baltimore is always home, baby. And I want to
Yeah.
say what's up to my fellow city knights.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
yeah, city
For East,
forever,
baby.
city
City
forever.
forever.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right, let's get into this, man, because this is one that's dear to me, is dear to all of you, obviously, and that is mental health awareness. It's become a thing, and I'm throwing my quotation marks up on purpose because it's become a hot topic now. But and this is going to be my first question. In your opinion, I'm gonna go around to each and every one of you, as a matter of fact. But in your opinion, if you take 10 brothers, how many of them are dealing with mental health issues, in your opinion? Brother Carr, I'm gonna start with you.
10.
10. Wow. Brother Tsanonda.
I'm in complete agreement with brother Rodney, man. It's got to be 10, all of them, in
What,
small or large ways, definitely.
Brother Orin?
Definitely 10.
Definitely 10. And Matt?
11.
Left.
Yes.
Man, so somebody got some
For
stuff
the
going on, extra
ancestors too,
stuff.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, all right. So explain that to me, like, because all right, because I have my own stigmas, obviously. Growing up in the black community, there was that we weren't allowed to have mental health issues. It was just somebody. I mean, he's just a little crazy. Don't worry about him. Don't. We throw crazy around real loose. Even in our own household, my own family household, we're cutting back on that word crazy because we realize that man, such a generic, just used for everything. So, Brother Sananda, I'm going to start with you. Why that number 10? Why?
So the reality is, everyone has something that they battle. It can be stress. It can be depression. It can be so many other just mental health obstacles or barriers that they are faced with. I tend to the best example I can think of is even when we were younger. I know a lot of us might go out, right? Go out to a club, right? Hang out or go out to a little bar lounge, whatever it is, go to hang out. And we were always told or taught to, man, when you drive into the parking lot, make sure you whip in backwards just in case you got to make a quick getaway, right? When you go into the club, man, make sure you got your back up against the wall so can't nobody sneak you. Now, nothing may have ever happened to you, ever, but you start to perpetuate almost like these post-traumatic stress things, even if nothing has ever even happened to you. So my reality is that we all are faced with a lot of different, again, mental health obstacles and barriers, and we just have to honestly put a name on it and not lean. No, I would say we do need to continue to lean on our resilience because, we Black folks just have an amazing amount of resilience, but we also have to start looking for the help that's necessary to kind of get us over those humps that we can't get out on our own.
Brother Orin.
So, well said, brother. One of the things I want to point out is one of the stigmas about mental health is when people think mental health, they automatically think negative. Mental health is not all negative. Your wellness is part of your mental health. What we try and promote with with people is that, in particular, men, and then I want to talk about Black men, but in particular men, we try and promote them becoming more well, figuring out ways that they can take proactive roles in their wellness. And that is also mental health. So that's why I agreed wholeheartedly with the 10. But Dr. Joy DeGruy did some work called post-traumatic slave syndrome. What that implied in that work was that when our ancestors, on the second arrival of Africans to this country, they came here under bondage, that was traumatic. Where did they get help? They didn't. So they figured out ways to handle with it. But guess what? They had kids. Those kids grew up at the end of slavery and they got into Black codes and they got into Jim Crow. Where did they get help? They didn't. They just managed it. Then they had kids. Those kids grew up in civil rights. What happened? They had us. Then when we grew up, we had Reaganomics, we had all these things, and we had kids. And guess what? Our kids grew up under Trumpism, under all these things. And so you're talking about multi-systemic generational resilience. But there hasn't been an open space for any of these Black men, any of our people, to kind of get the kind of wellness and support they need to compensate for a structure that has been put in place historically to keep Black men and Black women at a disadvantage.
Oh man, speak on that. Thank you for that. And brother Richard. I'm sorry, not brother. My bad. Thank you. Hey, Rodney. Thank you.
Too many R's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of R's here, man.
Yeah. So I want to expound on what Brother Orin just spoke on. Um, until we understand that PTSD and trauma and things of that nature is passed on genetically, right? It's passed on. Like I directly have been affected by just being in my mother's womb. So the traumas that she faced and she dealt with coming up while I was in her womb directly affected my chemistry in my brain, right? So when we're saying that these things are being passed on, uh, just being black in America alone, right? Not just a black man, but if you just want to stick to the men part, just being a black man in America alone, the fears of my 10-year-old grandson, right? Like the fears of my mother, who still says that some nights she don't sleep well if she don't hear from me, right? Or the fears of me staying up at night if I don't hear from my son. So these traumas are real. I'm one of the things we didn't announce in my bio is I'm a veteran, right? I'm a veteran of the Gulf War, United States Army. And most people we connect PTSD with veterans, with war. And as I'm working with these youth, especially the ones in high school that are graduating and trying to figure it out, and I'm always saying that because I really believe like the military was one of the best decisions that I had ever made. And what I'm saying is that how do we? And I got a kid that's saying like, I don't want to go in the army. They going to war, and I'm telling you. And I remember being scared in 1990 when the Gulf War started. I remember being scared. It was like, and then I had to remember like we were already at war. I've been in war since every time I leave out this house in these Baltimore streets. So
Wow.
so I'm already genetically affected. I'm infected environmentally by the foods that I eat, the water that I'm drinking, the lead. They talk about the opioid epidemic, but they never talk about the crack epidemic. Right? They still don't talk. I forget the name of the TV show that comes on with Franklin Saint.
Snowfall.
Snowfall, right?
Yeah.
And it's bringing a lot of attention to that, right? And,
Yep.
and we're seeing how that we're now in the third generation, right? And then you add the lead and the environmental effects, and you wonder why we got what we got. We got what we got now because it's been going on for 30, 40, 50 years. And now we have kids that are acting like savages because we have nobody who's raised them because of the crack epidemic and now the opioid epidemic. And now we have a thing. Did the substance abuse bring on the mental health, or did the mental health bring on the substance abuse or substance use? So that's where we at now as a people. And I thank y'all kings for being on here for because it's got to change with us. It's got to. Like I feel like every day I go out, if it don't change with me, it won't get done.
That's facts. Brother Matt, talk to me, man, because I know this is a subject dear to you.
We black in America. That's my answer. We black in America. And like it's really what has already been said. I don't know that I have so much more honestly to add. Like it's very near and dear to me, but I truly believe that the answers have already been laid out there. We black in America and we have so much to deal with. Every thought. I said something the other day. I made a post talking about getting a receipt. I get a receipt everywhere I go. And if they don't offer me a receipt, I ask for one. And if they get funky with it, then I got a serious problem. Like I went to a Dunkin' Donuts and the lady threw my receipt away before she asked me did I want it. And she went and got it and I found out it was balled up and I threw it on the ground. But I get my receipt all the time because that's a thing where I have literally seen, we probably all seen that video. Dude was in a Walmart parking lot, still getting ready to get locked up with his receipt. So I'm like, if he can get locked up with his receipt, I'm damn sure I gotta have mine because I will get locked up without it. So it's little stuff like that that other people don't necessarily have to worry about, or putting your stuff in a bag. As a young lady was telling me, like, she don't walk out of store without her stuff in the bag just because she don't want anybody to think that she was stealing. So it's all those kinds of pressures. When you go places and you stay in an Airbnb, you got to worry about people going to think you trying to break in, and just all of that kind of stuff. Everything that Rodney named, all the stresses. The thing about it is, a lot of us, we ain't really living. Like, we are surviving. And when you're in survival mode, that changes every facet of your life. Every facet. It puts stresses on you that no other people don't have to deal with. And that's what we face with every day. Plus we face with the idea that we have to push through as men, as fathers. We just got to be strong. We got to man up. We got to, you know what I mean, thug it out, whatever. And we not taking the time for ourselves that we need to take. So it's so many things about it. And we aren't going to get anywhere. Like, the reason I'm so vocal about it is because I understand with the stigmas and all of these things, that none of that changes in silence. None of that changes when we comfortable. We got to be in real uncomfortable situations and put ourselves out there. We got to be brave, as somebody said, because that's the only way it's going to change. The majority of us are hiding our shit from other people who are also hiding their shit from us. So we sitting around and we scared. We don't want to talk about it because we worried about how people going to judge us. I was in Shepherd Pratt. I tried to kill myself twice. I was in Shepherd Pratt after the second suicide attempt. And I'm walking around going to get my food. And the only thing I can think about is, what do these people think of me that work there? Do they think I'm crazy? You feel me? You know how crazy that is? I'm about to kill myself. And all I could think about was, do they think I'm crazy? What they gonna think of me when I get out of here? And I still gotta run Black Fathers, and I still gotta try to sell t-shirts and all of this type of stuff. What do they think of me? So it's all of those kinds of things that we are putting on ourselves, and we had to just start shedding all of that and stop being scared and stop worrying about what other people think of us, because they hiding their shit from us too, just like we hiding our shit from them.
Wow. That's look.
Brother Barry, if I could just kind of echo some of Matt's sentiments and some of the thoughts that I'm having, just kind of listening to the brothers.
Please.
I think one of the biggest things that I talk to, whether it's the young people that I engage with about, or in conversations like this one that I have maybe with my friends, my closest friends, things of that nature, that we also have to get to a point, especially with regard to mental health, I think, but just in general, pushing to make sure that we are even. And what I mean by that is, so often we get wrapped up in the ideals of success and what success looks like. And of course, we think financial success and things of that nature. But Brother Orin said something that struck me, and he talked about just mental health and wellness being a positive thing. And that's why it's important for us to push ourselves to get to that point where we are as even as possible. And then when we can get to even, then we can kind of springboard to success. Because some of us, we get out the bed knowing that whatever day it is going to be a horrible day, right? And we got to get out of that frame of mind where when we put our feet on the ground, it's like, we have to push to get even and make the day as best as it can be. Full of positivity. My pastor, Paul Grant, like God bless him, talks about that often. Just starting your day in a positive way. So we have to get back to pushing ourselves to be as even as possible. We were backstage talking about all the stuff we have on us, all the things we have to do. Like it's literally a never-ending checklist. But I think it's important for us to make sure that part of that checklist is making sure that we are okay. Taking that time to do the self-care, whatever that means to us, and figuring out ways. And what I mean by that is, I can't say whatever that means to us, because a lot of times it's a lot more acceptable for brothers to go on drinking binges and for brothers to engage in activities and coping mechanisms that aren't as healthy as they could be. So we have to kind of figure out what it takes to get as well as we can possibly be. And I love what Brother Orin said, just pushing that envelope to be as positive as possible and looking at mental health as something that we can engage in and engage in consistently and with strength and purpose and ongoing health in mind.
You know what? And Brother Tsanonda, you actually started that off with something, and I never really thought about it, but you went back to the club, and some of this, in order for us to even have fun, we were still stressed before we could actually have fun. I mean, I remember the rule. Hey man, you always keep your back to the. Everything you were saying, I remember, and now I remember now why. Let me go get me a drink. I remember that because you gotta mellow out because you on high alert. I never thought it. Look, I'm thinking it was just, man. I'm trying to meet some women and something. I'm all hyped up. No, I'm thinking like, who's that? Who's them cats over there? Why they looking at me like this? I got my back to me. Where my boys go? It's that's parking. Make sure you park in the right spot because if you need to get out of there quick, you need to get in. Like me and my man used to have a debate whether you park close or park far away. Then when we got into some nonsense, we was all right. So we got to park in the middle. Just all the things that happens that like, to even have fun
Yeah.
is trauma for us. It's
Yeah.
a stressor. And then how do you even come down? And that's at the fun level. And we haven't even gotten into life. Going to work every day, being black at work and not being the angry black man.
Mhm.
I got to reach out to brother Rodney on this and ask. So, um, you were in the military. Said it was the best experience you ever had. My father would not even let me look at the military because he was like, "Nah, man, I don't want you in there. That's not an option." Tell me, and it's for these young brothers that's out there right now, why was that the best decision you could have ever made?
Well, wow, it was the best decision I could have ever made because my three best friends were murdered before um, I was 20 years old. So I remember my squirt um, being killed. I remember like it was yesterday being on the first floor, going to class, the first period, second period, and found out he was killed the night before. I think I was in the 10th or the 11th. I was in the 11th grade. Um, but it was the best decision because that's when the murders started really happening. Like I will never be able to can explain to you. And I mean, I know we lived through it, but I really lived through it because I came from a neighborhood with drug dealing and drug using, where all my friends. I grew up in the neighborhood in the community where Baltimore City College was at, and it was cool to get high and use drugs and sell drugs, and and it was like going to school was an escape. And what and then city became the school because I was going and I was an athlete, and then all the girls were there, right? So all my guys would come to the neighborhood from the neighborhood to come up city to watch me play, or to come to the dances, or to come to hang out after school let out, or I snuck guys into the school, all that stuff. So long story short, um, it was a good decision because the other two guys were killed while I was in the military, and I'm almost sure that I would have been with one or both, right, at the time of their death, right. So it don't take me much to know how God has had His hands on me um, early on, right, to make the decision that I always can go left, right, because again, City was not the cool school, right. Lake Clifton, Dunbar, those were some of the schools that most of my friends, Northern, they was zone schools. But it wasn't cool to be smart. I got joked. They joked me like crazy about, yo, you going into the army, right? They joked me, right? And and then when I came home and my arms got bigger and my chest got wider, and they still was joking me, right?
Mm,
Until when I finally came home for good, and it was no longer a joke. It was like, yo, that was a good decision. So when I came back to the old neighborhood, it was like I'm riding by and I'm beeping the horn. I'm not stopping on the block. I'm not stopping on the corner. I go into grandma's house, get my mail, stop, hang out, eat dinner, and I leave. I don't go up the street because it was like a dozen murders on that block,
mm,
right? So the military continued to save my life, um, even when I had some mental health issues that came along later on in life. and I had some multiple challenges, some substance use challenges, drugs and alcohol challenges. So I say that's the gift that keeps giving. The United States Army just kept saving my life, even all the way up to my knee replacement. If it wasn't for this the knee replacement, my pastor calls this the $1 million knee. I got a big check from the military when I was like in between, like I didn't know what I was going to do. This is only 4 years ago, right? My knee was replaced 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm sorry, and my life completely turned around because I didn't know what I was going to do. The nonprofit I started 6 years ago was not making any. We wasn't making no money. I couldn't even afford a salary for myself. Better yet, anybody else. And I got a big check from the military, and I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna get another lump sum. I gotta, you know the word, I gotta flip this.
Yo,
So
man, thank you for sharing with that, man. Because like, and just so you know, we have our a crazy response from Facebook right now. People want, and I want to actually reach out and say and thank you, everyone that's chiming in and commenting. I want to. Brent has a question. What do we do when we try to teach our sons how to navigate these situations, but even our own black women don't think it's that serious? Go ahead, Orin. Go ahead, bro. I saw you knowing that you jumped in there,
Yeah,
man. Go ahead, bro.
I was thinking that one of the things that I often talk to people about is how we can become more aware and educated about our process. The truth of the matter is that a lot of things that transpire in a household, in a family, it's actually really not new. It's some of the same things over and over and over again. And so, like, one example that I talk about is like corporal punishment, beating children and stuff like that. A lot of people attribute that to a biblical reference when it's not actually true. But what happens is that when you become more informed, you make better decisions. So the truth of the matter is, around the time right after slavery, there was a thing called black codes. And so if I was walking down the street with my son, and my son he could have been a toddler, 4 or 5 years old, and he's jumping up and down and acting a fool and stuff like that. By law, it was legal for a white person to come up to my son and discipline him right there on the spot. So you know what we did? What we did is we jumped on our kids first. The resilience that we display, we jumped on them first. We made it so that that white person would be satisfied and wouldn't abuse our children. So that gets passed down over generations. And so what we know about brain development is that when you have small children and things like that, what you want to do is you want them to explore. So when the question that Brent asked is, how do we teach our sons how to navigate situations? Well, we have to become more aware first. We have to educate ourselves about what's actually happening. We have to learn about structural oppression. We have to learn about the implications, how it impacts everybody. Some people don't want to confront the reality of it, whether it be women or men or whomever. But the reality is that it's there and it influences everything that you do. You have to be true to that. The other thing is that you have to remind yourself that a child is a child. So they can't operate or function or think like adults think. So, you know, one of the common mistakes that parents make is they parentify child. They make them older than what they are. But what happens is you want to keep them a child, but you want to talk to them at the age that they are. So when you're talking about structural oppression to a 5-year-old, you don't call it structural oppression. We talk about right and wrong. When you talk about it to an 18-year-old, you call it what it is. And so the reality is that as we become more aware and we make better decisions, we realize that this is impacting all of us. We won't judge it just by that experience. And so another common thing is that in terms of our awareness, and I'll just say this real quick, I will say, all 5 of you gentlemen, I love you. Now, what that means in our community is kind of crazy, because if I say I love you and I don't know you guys, but I know what you're trying to do and what you're talking about, I mean it. 2 of you statistically will have an odd reaction to it because you're not used to it. Maybe you've never been told it. You've been taught to suppress your emotions. And so you have to teach yourself in order to teach your son, Brent.
That's love right there. Brother Tsanonda, I know you had something to say.
Yeah. So, first of all, that commentary was amazing, and I love the way that Brother Orin just kind of said that we do have to make sure that when we're speaking with our children, that we're doing it and as age appropriate as we possibly can, making sure that we are, coming to that level or showing some type of understanding and making sure that what we're telling them they are in understanding of. But one of the big things that I thought of immediately was about modeling. I love what Brother Orange just said, like, hey, I love you, brothers. Like, that's amazing. That's the type of stuff, honestly, we have to show our sons, right? So, yes, it's about instilling in them and teaching them whatever we can, but it's about modeling. I love when maybe a couple years ago, my sons and my best friends, their children, they were having a conversation, basement. They had no idea that my friends, I call them my brothers, right? So my children call them Uncle Mike, Uncle Jamie, that type of thing, right? So they were having a conversation like, how is it possible that they're brothers, but they don't have the last name? They had no clue that we weren't really physically or biologically family. So I'm saying that to say it's about modeling, right? So I want my children to see me embrace my brothers, you guys. I want them to see me physically embrace you guys. I want them to see me verbally embrace you guys. I want them to see me verbally talk about the things that are going on with me, whether I'm talking about those things with my wife, because even if my wife doesn't think it's that serious, it's important for me to kind of model it and in hopes that by instilling it in them and them seeing it, it'll help them to kind of sort of emulate what it is that I'm doing. So being open, being verbal. I always talk about us. We're men, so we're going to show a certain level of resilience that all, I think, Black people, man or woman, carry. But at the same time, we are going to have to kind of show and emulate and just kind of model and pattern what it is that we want our sons to do and what we want them to be. Like, it's okay to be tough, but it's okay to also ask for help, and it's okay to give out love, and it's okay, you know what I mean? I was talking about literally, I think earlier yesterday, I think it was, when our kids are falling and they skin their knee and they getting upset, man, shake it off. You a man. No, that's not, if you hurt, you hurt. We got right? So we have to kind of get out of some of those acting, like Brother Orin said, that they're older than what they are. But teaching them that it's okay to be in the moment, it's okay to feel a certain type of way, but we also have to be solution driven, right? So we can't just kind of say, you know what, it's okay to just be depressed. I deal with depression, I've been diagnosed with it, right? But we also have to show, what steps we take to help ourselves heal, whether that's therapy or getting in contact with the right people, whatever it is that we have to do. We have to make sure that we're modeling those things so that our children understand it, and also having those conversations with our significant other, and even regardless, family, whether it's our sisters, our wives, our sister-in-laws, everybody, so that hopefully our women, as we take the lead, the women who we share our lives with, will be able to kind of follow along those patterns, and they're able to see that kind of growth and development and continue to go about it that way.
Brother, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
We just had another comment, and I feel like I need to, because you guys have basically led right into it, and this is from Shantae Dixon, and she said we have to stop telling our young boys, to man up. We've all heard it. We've all heard it, and to your point, when you're like, you fall, you're hurt. Hey man, come on, man up, man, dust yourself off. But if it's our baby girls, we will embrace them. We will hold them. Daddy has you. We got you. We don't do that for our boys because we're, quote, making them tough, but that suppresses those feelings. So my first question is going to Matt, because what do we do when our whole life has been taught to suppress these feelings? Where do they go? I mean, how do you not man up when you're supposed to be a man 24/7?
So the thing about it is that it's really what's already been said, is that we as, not only as fathers, but as a society, because mothers too, we have to break the chains that hold us mentally in this kind of mentality. And we have to understand that it's a couple things to it. Number one, that suppression leads to destruction. And I've seen it so many times as an educator. I've seen it. You got young men who are told this, they can't cry, they can't do this, they can't do that. But then they getting suspended, expelled, locked up, and all that when they start tearing shit apart. And all of that is a manifestation of all of that frustration from all of these things being pent up inside that they can't express. So we have to throw all of those shackles off of our minds and understand that if we talk about it's a cruel world out here, but who is the world? It's us. So if we being cruel, then it's a cruel world. If we ain't, then we gonna change the world. And I mean that assuredly. So we have to look at how we talk, how we act, how we move, and what it is we are doing in this world that allows it to be such a cruel world where we think that we have to tell our sons that they have to be so tough, that they can't do all of this stuff. And then we had to understand the repercussions. And especially for our women with that question of how we make women understand, because it's incredibly difficult as a man when you begin to open up and then you get stepped on, right? Oh, nigga, you ain't this. Oh, you use this, use that, use a whole, you know what I mean? So it has to be a balance where we all working together to understand that this is beneficial for us on whole. When we can express ourselves, we can be respected for the way that we feel. We not dumped on. And the other thing is that for me, I know for a fact, it takes far more courage and strength to be vulnerable than it ever does to hide. So you can talk about, you can call me weak all day. I really don't care. I've gotten past that point when I was at Shepherd Pratt and I was worried about what people think of me. I don't care. You can call me weak all you want, but I know who I am and whose I am, right? So I know how I have to walk in this life. And I know that it takes far more strength for me as a father to cry in front of my kids than it does to go hide in my room and pretend that ain't nothing wrong, right? So that's what I think is a lot to it. And when we have our sons, we have to be willing to, you prepare them for the world as it is, but you also teach them to make the world what they want it to be. So if we want our kids, we want to see a better world for our kids where they can be vulnerable, they can be transparent, they can be heard, they can be understood, they can deal with depression and go through it and come out of it and not sit and suffer in it in silence all day. Then we have to be able to relay that to them and help prepare them from an early age and start shaking off all of these old ideologies that boys have to be this way and girls are this way and we can't have any kind of intermingling and that whole sort of thing. That's my take on it.
Brother Matt, thank you very much, man. And listen, I'm loving how this conversation is going. I want to shift it a little bit just because it is the African American community, it is the Black community, and one of the first things that happens with our parents and our parents' parents is when we feel the need to talk to someone. First thing a lot of our family wants to do and say, we got to pray. We got to pray on it. So prayer, and I'm not knocking religion. I'm not just knocking spirituality. That's not what I'm saying. But we cannot pray this thing away. So what happens when you have prayer versus therapy? Now, a lot of people understand what should be happening, but I want, and Brother Rodney, I want to go with you first. Can you help us understand? You're laughing.
Yeah.
Tell me your first thoughts. I'm gonna stop and just let you go.
I'm laughing because I don't think that was in my bio either. I'm a deacon at New Kingdom Faith Christian Church, right? Faith.
Perfect question.
Right. And so I was like, I said, only God would do that. Only God would say, okay, we can ready to see what you really made of, Mr. God. Right? But I always like to say I'm not your ordinary deacon. No, I'm not. I don't pretend to be perfect. I'm super flawed. I'm flawed and all. I have my struggles. I hurt. I cry. I've done a lot of damage. I've done a lot of healing, and I've helped a lot of people. Right. So I fit the whole gamut. Right. Of when God chose imperfect people, or Jesus chose imperfect people to go on this journey. Right. So therapy versus prayer. Right. The quicker the church realized that God also sent amazing therapists, right? The quicker we're gonna get some change around here, right? I thank God that
Amen.
my pastor Dante Duck,
Hallelujah.
right? My pastor. Now, I'm telling you, this is real talk, right? IKEA was started 6 years ago. New Kingdom Faith, our church, was started 5 years ago, right? We all came from Morning Star. We started this church, and the church itself, we were struggling financially. The church was struggling. IKEA was struggling. He's leading one thing, and I'm leading the other. We're doing the work. We're working night in. We're doing all this work, but we're struggling, right? And I always give a shout to my little big brother, Keith Rose, and Keys Development, man. Yeah, another night, City College night, man. I reached out to that brother, man, and he showed me the ropes, right? I took it and I ran with it. I came to my pastor and I said, Pastor, I think I got a way that we can create some funding for what we're doing, right? Because we're already doing the work. We were already doing case management. We were already going in houses working with children. We were already in schools. We were already doing that, right? And it was just me and him, right? Because we had a lot of these older people in the church who really didn't understand, like, why are we working outside the box of the church? No, that's crazy, right? Check this out. Speed it up. We got COVID, right? We got multi-million-dollar buildings, right? When the last time you've been in the building? The church has always been outside of the building, right? What is the work that you're doing? Ministry happens not on Sunday. It happens Monday through Saturday, right? So you can come to church and you can wear your nice suits and you drive your nice cars and came from your nice job and you're going to get 30 minutes of preaching, right? And then you go home and you cuss your children out. You disrespect your wife. You done partied all Saturday night sleeping around on your wife or your husband and all, like, well, because you got some pains inside or some unaddressed issues that you haven't been able to address because you don't want to talk to nobody. And the church keeps saying, go get the oil. Let's put some oil on them. Let's pray over them, right? The things that I was dealing with drug and alcohol, you couldn't pray over me. You couldn't pray over me enough. You couldn't pray for me enough. You couldn't lay hands on me enough. I needed something concrete and structured to help me deal with me. And when I learned that, and when I got that, and when I started doing that, I was like, wow, everybody needs this. So I took my pain and I said, and I gravitated and I changed the game. And I said, okay, let me show you how to do that. So because now I am the first thing that this little 17, 18, 19-year-old see, the closest thing he may see to God. He just want to see that I love him enough that I'm going to do everything that I said I'm going to do. Because when I go to the church and I say I'm getting ready to get put out of my house, and they say, well, have you been tithing? How am I tired and I ain't got a job? So
I wasn't ready.
Yeah,
I wasn't ready for you, man. Keep going. Shoot, I wasn't ready for that one.
So I'm not knocking the church, but I am challenging the church, right? I thank God that I'm in a church that we do that. I thank God that the head, I'm one of the leaders. My pastor is the leader, and he's also my business partner, right? And now this concept, if more people share this model, I guess we gotta keep doing what we're doing, right? And slowly but surely, a lot of people in the congregation don't agree with it, don't like it, they struggle with it. But we're saying we got to address the mental health first before he can even understand to open the book, which is the word or the Bible. He just want to know how he can deal with the monsters that's in his mind. And you telling him to go to let's go to Ephesians chapter. No. He want to know how he can stop from killing that dude that just disrespected him.
So now I got to shift over. I got to shift over to Brother Orin, who and I need to hear your thoughts on this, man, because therapy versus prayer. You teach social work,
and I am a therapist, and
you are the therapist.
So what happens when clients come in the hardest part of coming to us as a therapist is to walk through the door. Matter of fact, when we train people to be therapists, you can't be an effective therapist unless you go to therapy. So I have a therapist and I am a therapist as well. And so one of the things, what happens when you walk through the door, you go to a place where the first time, when you're dealing with a good therapist, the first time in your life you've been in a room where somebody's not going to judge you by what you say and what you think and what you feel. People are not used to that. They spent their whole entire lives being judged by family, friends, and things like that. So a good therapist will allow you to have a space to just be, to have a deeper understanding of who you are. So I focus in cognitive behavioral therapy. So that means that there's a thought that leads to a feeling, which leads to an action. I concentrate on how you think about the problem, because if I can adjust how you think about problems, then I can adjust your feelings. And if you can adjust your feelings, your actions will be different. Now, what we say when people have come to us and said, well, I just need to pray on it. Well, one of the things we know about, let me separate religion and spirituality. Just religion is a rule and guide on how people operate. So in most religions, and I'm Christian, but most of my family is Christian or Muslim. And so, and most in the Quran and the Bible, it talks about doing work in addition to your prayers, right? Spirituality is how you relate to a higher form. And so or your higher being. And so what happens is that we figure out ways to incorporate the two. But what happens often historically is that people they recognize the danger of going in and being vulnerable. It used to be consequential. It used to cost you things to tell your truth, to be vulnerable. Like brother said earlier in his own life, like you get judged by your woman or you get judged by your parents or things like that. But the reality is that we all need that space. We all need that space. And why not go to somebody? They call us the feelings doctor, because we work on your feelings. But the reality is that you work on your feelings. We provide a forum for you to do it.
I remember the first time going to therapy, and man, the emotions that came out of me, I was sitting there holding the pillow. I don't even know it was just a pillow on the couch. And I
Right.
don't even, out of nowhere, I just grabbed that thing, was just holding on, like tears and everything else. And I'm like,
Mhm.
where is this emotion coming from? And to your point, we've been told to man up for so long, to choke everything down, to
Yep.
not deal. But the first time you got a safe space and no judgment, man, the things that came out of, like, just the emotions and the tears and the look, I'm sitting there like just holding the pillow, like that was like the best pillow hug I ever had in my life. It was just,
Absolutely.
just the craziest
Didn't you
thing.
feel free? And here's the
Man,
thing. Here's the crazy thing. The number one killer of Black men is stress. Has
Stress.
manifested through heart
Yep.
disease,
Yes.
strokes,
Yep.
diabetes, and murder.
Yeah.
You know, and so these are things that are actually literally killing us, but yet we're still taught to suppress it.
And
wow.
one thing I just wanted to jump in real quick, because the other thing, which I already talked about and dealt with twice in my life, is suicide. So that is another thing, because more and more, especially being in Black fathers and having people talk as openly and freely as they do, is finding out how many men are either on the brink or have already attempted suicide. It's an alarming number, and that really goes back to in a large degree to how much we suppress, how much we hold in, and how we don't necessarily get that treatment we need. Even for myself, I still battle all the time. I tell people I don't make no promises. I take it day by day. I don't make no promises. I tried it twice, and I'm not promising you I won't try it again. That's just where it is, because you never know what you face. And I know this isn't necessarily, answering the question, therapy versus prayer, but you just never know what you're going to face. So I'm not a religious person at all. I guess you would say I'm spiritual. I do believe in a higher power, but I'm not a praying person. So I guess that makes it easier for me to settle that question. But I've definitely gone to therapy. I need to get back. And one thing that's important, I'm also currently, my wife and I are in marriage counseling. And one thing that I've learned from that, and something that we don't necessarily talk about a lot, but you will get in therapy, is how much things from your past play a part in who you are today and the things that you do. So we have to look at that, and a lot of that comes out in therapy. The thing about, just like, for example, one thing that I didn't make the connection, and this ain't like traumatic or anything, but I didn't make the connection between how I am today or how I used to be. I'm a work in progress, but how I really used to be in terms of allowing people and feeling comfortable with people doing stuff for me. If I didn't really feel like doing it and they volunteered, I'd be like, oh, go ahead, take that. But that goes back to my mother, who did everything. Like, I didn't have no chores growing up. I got a whipping one time in my life. Like, I got away with murder, right? So now from all of that, I get to the point where I'm 35, 40 years old, even with kids, and I'm still like, oh yeah, you want to handle that? Yeah, get them dishes, whatever. I ain't gonna worry about it. But it's just the point. That's just one example for us to understand. Now, a lot of people have stuff that's way more traumatic that happened to them, and they carrying it with them now. But you got to be able to unpack all of that and realize just how much that past affects your present.
So I wanted to chime in on you a little bit, Matt, or piggyback off of that when you speak on suicide, because that's one of the things you talk about mental health. We don't talk about suicide enough. They always say we've been through everything as black men. Black people don't try to kill themselves. White people do. That old false narrative, right? So, but one of the things that we never look at, we look at suicide as all ending, not about the survivors or the fact that when we say, how about my wife is an addictions counselor, right? And we're very familiar with Narcotics Anonymous and AA. A lot of the work that our organization, our program does is with recovering addicts and practicing addicts. And one of the things that is spoke about in Narcotics Anonymous is about how an addict has tried to kill themselves slowly over a period of time, one drug, one pill, one drink at a time. So when I think somebody mentioned earlier about getting funky drunk, mesmerized, high, it's all outdoors, right? Consistently over time, where it's depressing, where it's debilitating, where it's crushing your family. And it's like, that's a slow death, right? But we'll say, okay, but we don't look at it as that, right? And I just wanted to comment on that, because we need to be able to see, like, because a lot of that goes to us not wanting to be here anymore, not wanting to deal with whatever. I'm trying to cover the pain. I need to drink to deal with the pain. I need to smoke or take a pill to deal with the pain, right? So I need to get completely foobarred so I don't have to deal with the pain, as opposed to the all ending. Okay, let me put a gun to my head and end it all at one time. We just end it slowly over a period of time of not dealing with it. So we gotta make sure I just wanted to make sure we touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't want to take over the whole show, but I remember when I was in Shepherd Pratt, and they had a sign, and you probably seen this or heard it before, and they say, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But the thing what people don't understand is when you live with depression, you live with stress, you live with anxiety daily, and you have no hope or no sign, nothing is showing you a sign that this is going to be a temporary problem. You don't look at it that way. You look at it as every day I wake up, I'm still dealing with the same shit over and over and over. And just like you said, there's an ending. I want to put an end to it. And so often what happens to us as Black men in all kinds of arenas is that people don't really look to see what the problems are. They only look at what we're doing and want to judge off of that and tell us, well, this is what you should be doing. You need to be living for this person. You need to be living for that person, which is problematic in and of itself. But we need to understand, we need to be able to listen and understand what the problems are and stop with all these cliches, because they don't get nobody nowhere. They don't get you nowhere. It's nice. It sounds cute and all. And I tell people all the time, like, I don't offer fluff. If I know something is up with you and I think you on the verge, you know what I mean? I don't offer no fluff at all. A lot of people say these hollow things that sound good and all of that. And I definitely don't say nothing about living for nobody else, because the one thing I understand is that you have to want to live for yourself first. Because if you don't want to live for yourself, being told that you got to live for somebody else is just an additional burden on top of what you already have. So if you're telling me, like, I'm going through all of this shit in my day to day and I'm just ready to call it quits, I'm done. And you say, well, what about your wife? What about this person and that person? That's just more stress on me, because I'm like, I don't want to be here, but you're telling me I have to be here and deal with all of this stuff for somebody else's sake. So it's a lot of things. And I'm sure, Orin, you know, you probably could really touch on this, but I think it's a lot of things that people do wrong unintentionally, but, you know, they might have great intentions, but a lot of times people say some of the wrong stuff to people that are going through challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Rodney was stealing my thunder here, man, because he led us into something that was like the last topic. And thank you for that, Matt. Again, I appreciate you being on here, brother. It is nice to see you, man. Good to see you. Like, just
Great to be seen.
man, oh man. Look, he's always in the back somewhere chiming in, you know. And another thing. So I mean, I love to hear him actually out here in the front here. But
Yeah.
it was something Brother Tsanonda said earlier, man, and it just, I wrote it down. I need to touch on this because self-care versus self-sabotage. And I'm thinking, and I'm talking about the fact that, you know, for so long we were taught, or we learned, or we saw going to the club was the way to burn off steam, hanging out and drinking is the way to burn off steam, is to feel good. But that's not really self-care, because that's all we've been taught, even growing up. Like, we saw a lot of our men, they had a drink in each hand, and that's how they burned off steam. And that's what we saw was how we blew off our steam. And that's the best way I could say it. I mean, that was the only time. But now I also see that is slowly self-sabotage. Like, I remember, you know, growing up on music videos when VIP became the thing. You know, you had to get into the VIP. You was popping bottles. You know, so you know, and all the Puffy videos, everybody's in the VIP popping bottles. You in the whirlpool with the pretty ladies popping bottles. It was like, and as a cat that was 20 something as a bartender, I was 21 as a bartender. I mean, I was at the party every weekend. So I was providing the party. I was part of the party. But I saw at some point, so now I might have one drink a month. I, like, my early 20s, it was like every weekend. But I can't even do that anymore, because I've found joy in other things. And I want to start with Brother Tsanonda. I want to start with you first, and then Brother Orin.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about, or talk to these young brothers that are listening now, that what self-care really looks like, because we've been taught the wrong thing about what that really is.
Absolutely. So you actually just put out a lot of amazing points, Brother Barry. For me, self-care is, and I have this kind of like acronym that I use with regard to self-care, taking care of yourself. STST. So the first S stands for just self, knowing yourself, being aware of what I call the nouns of you, right? So that means the people, the places, the things, making sure that you're around the right people, right? Because you're going to have some people who would rather choose a more destructive path. And sometimes you go along with those things, even in our old age, like you say, as we get older, you know what I mean? Like, That brother always want to take a drink. He always want to take a drink. And sometimes you know what? I need to be more of an occasional drinker. I don't need to be drinking every single day to kind of mask my problems. So you have to just be in contact with, again, those nouns of you. Getting around the right people, making sure that you know the places that make you kind of feel better about yourself. And then, of course, the things, whether that's the Bible, whether that's a good movie, whether it's a good book, whatever it is, making sure that you're in touch with those things. So again, I said STST. So that first S again is about self. The second T is about tribe. Making sure you have the right people in your tribe. Sometimes we are at a point where we have to make difficult decisions with regard to self-care. And again, we may have to, what my therapist calls, change the channel on some people, because there are some people who we can't just push out of our lives. Because the reality is, some of us have issues with our parents. Some of us have issues with, like different people who we have to deal with, right? So when we're getting into those areas, those muddy waters where things are going to get kind of crazy and they're going to lead us to anxiety or lead us to stress or lead us to depression, if we feel ourselves going that way, we got to figure out a way to change the channel on those things. I always talk about my mom, love her to death. We had a difficult relationship. So when we start to get into those areas where I know things are going to kind of get a little crazy, change the channel. Mom, what'd you eat today? You hungry? Did you have pizza? Man, that pizza looked like it was kind of good. What kind of pizza you had? Change the channel. You got to figure out ways to do that, right? The next S is spirituality. So if you choose to have some type of spirituality, lock into that. But you also need those other things too, because it's not just spirituality. And then the last thing, that last T, STST, the last thing is therapy. Therapy has changed my life. Being able to literally put a finger on it. Sir, based on this, you deal with depression. And your mom dealt with depression and your dad committed suicide because of depression. Actually bipolar manic depression, right? So genetically, as Brother Orin said, I'm predisposed. As soon as they have depression, so that means the likelihood is that it's going to be passed down to me. So I have to make sure that self-care is a big part of my everyday life. I love what Matt said about it being an everyday process, being mindful about what you're doing. I can't worry about heavily what's going on a week from now. And I know we put on events and all that type of stuff, so we have to have some type of structure and organization of what's coming on in the future. But be careful, because again, everything that comes, it can lead to anxiety. And sometimes that anxiety of what hasn't happened yet, we got to be focused on the stress that's happening now. But we got to be looking forward. Sometimes we have to kind of put ourselves in positions to deal with the good stress, the eustress. I learned that in psychiatry class a long time ago. Hopefully they make you proud, Brother Orin. Eustress, the birthday parties and the good things. You know what I mean? We have to kind of put ourselves in position to be thankful with those types of things. And again, focus on yourself. Focus on having a great tribe. Get your spirituality tight and making sure that therapy is a potential part of what you do in your everyday life.
Thank you, Brother Orin. Then Brother Rodney.
First of all, thank you, Brother Barry, for that question. I don't know if you recognize, but the two concepts are related: self-care versus self-sabotage. The difference between the two, whether you lean one way or another, is how present you are. So self-sabotage relies on things like fear and avoidance. When people self-sabotage, they tend to want to avoid something that's causing them pain. They want to get beyond something without the work, and they put themselves in harm's way, either indirectly or directly, by poor choices or decisions that they make in life. But self-care is about being present, and it's extremely difficult to be present all the time. So what that means is that you have to have a toolbox to provide yourself with self-care. I coach people in therapy, tell people to utilize your 5 senses to become more prominent with your self-care. So pay attention to what you hear, who's around you. Like Brother Tsanonda mentioned, pay attention to what you watch and what you taking in. Pay attention to what you taste. Are you eating to anesthetize pain, or are you eating to live? Pay attention to what you smell. There are certain smells, if used appropriately, will help you feel better. Pay attention to what you touch. The power of touch goes a long way. And so we need help. We got to have a plan for self-care. We can't, people, Brother Matt had mentioned how sometimes in our business, people just give you these hollow solutions. You got to have a plan for any outcome that you want. To double back on what Brother Matt said in terms of suicidal ideation, suicidal thought. One of the things I've always said is that the feeling is not abnormal. It's what you do with the feeling that matters. Yes, oftentimes people get tired. Oftentimes people want something easier. They want to out for this. But what you do with it matters. And so what we try and help people understand is how you feel is relevant and real, but not always true. And so going back to self-sabotage versus self-care, well, I look at this. You have this brilliant defense mechanism that allows you to protect. Your brain says, oh, it's a bear. It's an alarm. Your brain actually tells you it's an alarm, even sometimes when it's not. Why? Because your brain is going to protect you at all costs. So what happens is that you have to learn how to communicate and listen to your body better. So when Brother Matt here mentioned earlier how people are in survival mode, yes, that means your brain is looking at everything as a crisis. So that's how you're going to respond. So my goal in this related concept, and that's why I appreciate the question so much, is for you to understand this one point. The two are related. They're really closely related. And if you're not careful, you'll fall to one when you think you're going the other way. The only difference, the only way it could stop it is your awareness. The more aware you are, the more present you are to the moment, the better your outcome.
Brother Orin, thank you very much for that. Brother Rodney, man.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of Brother Orin real quick. How close we are to that, right? Because he mentioned about they're very close and very related. I'll give you a prime example of me and another very close family member that is now still struggling, who has not been able to change it. For me, it was always women, right? My first wife died. I was 37. She died from cancer. It's my son's mother, and I struggled. My son struggled for years, and I struggled for years, wholeheartedly. And I went from woman to woman to woman. I had some good women, right? But I went from woman to woman to woman, right? Not knowing that I was self-sabotaging myself, right? I thought I was practicing self-care because I thought I needed a good woman. But I really needed to really be by myself, right? It was only until I got by myself, where I wasn't good to no woman, that I was able to pivot. And I started trending upward because I started seeing like I needed some time to myself to be able to heal, to be able to grieve, and work on myself and my son. It was nothing that it didn't matter who she was. It was nothing that she could do. Matter of fact, my son and I, we were so toxic. We brought damage into about 3 different households in about a 4-year period. Right? So when it was like, damn, don't nobody want me. And I started really looking at me and saying like, I ain't good enough. Right? And then I thought it was me that I was spoiled by the woman I was, because I was like, oh, do they not know I'm Hershey? Like, I'm that dude. Like, every woman want me. Like that's the ego that I had, right? And I was a piece of crap, right? No woman should have. So when I started practicing self-care, my most recent things have changed for me in 2021, man. My self-care looks so different. I spoke earlier about the church. The church wasn't enough for me, right? So I needed to re-engage with therapy, right? I started Reiki. a couple of times a week. I mean, not a couple of times a week, a couple of times a month. I finally, all that time where they say pray and meditate, I never could get the concept of meditation. Right? I thank Brother Manir Bahar for teaching me that. Right? Like when I was struggling back in January, man, not knocking the church, but they ain't had no answers for me. Right? It was some brothers who was in the community. Shout out to my business partner, Farmer Nell, who sat with me, opened up our building and sat with me and was like, bro, let me show you yoga. Right? Because the Christians going to say like, oh, yoga is not good. Right? They're going to tell you that that wasn't the yoga that I experienced. And I'll go to bat for it again because I still practice it. So now before I go to the gym, I'm stretching, I'm meditating, I'm zoned in and I'm locked in like I've never been before ever. When I go to Reiki, I'm locked in and meditating and breathing. My brother Manir taught me how to just focus on my breathing, something that we take for granted. Remember how they say count to 10? That stuff works. Right? So just focusing on my breathing. God gave us everything that we need here, man. Man, I'm so big on that lavender oil, man. I'm breathing that thing in and taking, man, I'm telling you. They ain't teaching me that. They didn't teach me that in Christianity. Not knocking it, because I'm still a Christian. Right? Right? But now it's like, I thank God. Because here I am having business meetings about opening a whole holistic center, right? So that we can address all these different additional modalities of care, self-care, so that when somebody comes to Eye Care Foundation and they want some help, and they ain't down for therapy, then I say, won't you try this? Or won't you try that? Or can you try this? Like something's going to hit for you. You just got to be open. Because where I come from, there's 3 things that's needed: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
That's what's up, man. I want to keep this going, but we got to wrap it up, brother. But you did it well. But from the last thing we're going to talk about, and I think we just heard from Brother Rodney, that lavender is one of the things you do for self-care. I want to hear from everybody else. Brother Tsanonda, what's your self-care thing?
One of the biggest things, honestly, that I probably do to keep it quick is just take some time for myself. I'm an extremely dedicated husband and father. I love spending time with my wife, watching movies and hanging out and just laughing, having a good time. I love spending time with my boys. And it's enjoyable, right? But it's okay to take some time for yourself. Figure out a way to go get some time strictly for yourself. I'm also dedicated in my community work, dedicated in, again, mental health, my organization above it all, dedicated to it. But you have to make sure that you take some time for yourself. And that's the biggest thing that I do. I'm learning to I don't have to be reading books and putting it on social media and telling everybody, I read 8 books this month. Like, it doesn't have to be that serious. One of my favorite people and my mentors, Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, said, man, read some magazines. Just chill, relax, man. Just read some magazines. So it's just certain things that I enjoy doing. But I think the biggest thing, again, is not beating myself up when I want and need time for myself. And that's one of the reasons why I can't wait till Father's Day gets here, because that's going to be my day to myself. Looking forward to it. But definitely take some time.
Nothing. Doing absolutely nothing that day. Just nothing. Brother Orin, what's your thing, brother?
I'm a work in progress. I don't do it well all the time. But I think the most important thing is to try and figure out to be present, how I can be more present, like be present in how I move, pay attention to the trees, pay attention to the sun, let the sun hit me, eat to live. Those are things that I try and do to take care of myself, exercise, spend quality time with quality people, reduce the amount of stressors. Those would be the big things I would say.
Excellent. Brother Matt, man. I see you all over the town, all over the world, bro. What's one of your thing, your self-care thing?
So my biggest thing really is getting into nature. Is really like going off of what Orin said. I love the sun. I love trees, and that is a double entendre. And water. So those are the ways that I can relax. Any chance I get. Actually, we just went out yesterday, found a park around here, and so it was myself, my wife, my daughter, and my mother-in-law. And my daughter found this thing off of TikTok where you take the glass from a picture frame and you trace a picture with a marker, and then you paint in. So we're sitting in the park just painting. And that was like one of the best things I've done in a long time. So that's really where it's at for me. Anytime I can get out in the sunshine, rain makes me sick. It pretty much depresses me. I hate rain. But when the sun comes out, I'm a whole different person. And when I can get somewhere around some water and just be in nature and just chilling and enjoying the clouds and trees, that's my favorite stuff right there.
That's what's up, brother Roddy. I know it's that lavender, that yogi. Anything else, bro?
I hope you guys can hear me, man. I switched rooms trying to run from my neighbor who's still doing lawn care. Man, I went from the front to the back, and now he's out the back. So, man, my wife always mad because he always cut it the wrong time. So, but that's my guy. So listen, man, shout out to brother Farmer Nell, man. My business partner, man. When we came together with this thing we was doing, man. Our food, man. Our food. Brother Tsanonda, I'm 10 minutes away, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. 5 is good with no light. Where our offices programs are 5 to 10 minutes away from each other. We work in two of the most unhealthy, poorest districts in the state, right? Food desert, food apartheid, right? Lead infested. Definitely got to be a part 2, man. That's a whole nother thing, man. So I ain't even gonna go, but I just know for the first time I'm eating more healthier than I ever have in my whole life, man. And I used to have a BMW, man. And I put regular gas in it one time by mistake because I really never drove it. I always drove the work truck, right? And I just went to the gas station, automatically put regular gas in it. It sat for about a week or two. Sometimes I wouldn't drive, right? And it wouldn't start. Right? That's what we do with all. Go down North Avenue. Tell me what you see healthy besides be more green. Yeah. Right? That's what we do. So when you see all that unhealthy stuff, man, we putting regular gas in these BMW bodies. And then we wonder why we ain't starting. Why our health is, and it directly affects everything, including our mental health.
That's what's up, man. Look, I appreciate it, man, gentlemen. Look, and I'm gonna lead with my last one. Well, my thing is I gotta give love to my wife because she was the one to put me down to like. So I'll go on my side first, which is I love like getting out there and working with my hands and doing a little carpentry work and everything. You know, I like that, and I like seeing my finished product. It's like satisfying. But then on the flip side, my wife put me on to this. I'm looking around because. You know, I gotta give her love and everything, but man, she got me in the baths, man. So I got like the bath salts and the lavender, man. I'm sitting in that thing like,
Yo,
you know, and with the first couple of times I was really feeling, I'm feeling real uncomfortable right now, man. just the fact that this feels so good, I feel real uncomfortable, you know. But I'm just,
I shouldn't enjoy this as much as I do.
right. I'm just like, what's wrong with me? You know, it's like we're not used to self-care, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm in there scrubbing my feet and everything, and I'm like, oh, that's it's like this is crazy. But we are hearing we're hearing that we need to do a part 2. Matt, we're reaching out to you. We're gonna see where we get that scheduled, man, because we didn't even get into the fatherhood stuff of stress. We just dealt with the black man and the stress, and so we got to go a little bit further with it because we got to add the kids, the wives, and everything else that gets on our shoulders.
Yes.
Which is why I need that bath time, man. I need my bath time. You know, No, I don't
Riding
pictures in your head. Don't pick. No, I ain't trying to put
go
no
see them
pictures in nobody's
trees.
head. But hey, listen, folks. I want to thank you again for tuning in to the Fathers Foundation, Black Fathers Foundations. Man, this has been amazing. Brother Tsanonda, Matt, Orin, Rodney, thank you so very much for participating. We hope to see you next time for part 2. Again, for all our viewers and our listeners, and Shantae, thank you again. We have
Yes.
Michelle Evans. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to us,
My
getting to
cousin.
hear the brother side of things. Valerie, Kelly, that's
Oh,
Matt Love right there. Look, man, listen, we appreciate you all. Janine, is that Janine? Man, oh man, we got some great folks. Richard, we're gonna see you on part 2, brother.
yes.
And
Yeah.
like Shantae, I said, Josh, my man Josh, I'm glad you spent this time with us, folks. So thank you very much. We're gonna tune out, folks, and again, we'll see you next time.
City
Peace.
forever, baby.